y'all. Welcome to this week's 10-Minute Q-Tip Tuesday. I'm Amelia Borland, occupational therapist, founder and owner of Higher Standards Caregiver Training, and I am here, of course, this week, as I am every week, to give you two super valuable tips in only 10 minutes. The first for caregivers, and the second is for caregiving organizations. Now, before we get started, as always, guys, keep in mind this information is for educational purposes only. It's not a substitute for health advice. It's not a substitute for a therapeutic relationship. And if anything that I say reminds you of someone you know, someone you work with, etc., maybe even yourself, who you think needs to be seen by a licensed healthcare provider, then please make sure that you are advocating for that person to be seen by that appropriate provider, as this is really and truly for educational purposes only. Okay, let's jump right in today. Oh, actually, real quick, make sure you stay tuned to the end today. I'm going to be sharing some resources that are both currently available for family caregivers and for the leaders of non-medical care organizations. And then I'm going to be talking about a cool event that I had the privilege of being invited to that is coming up for people in skilled nursing. So stay tuned to the end of that, but let's get to the good stuff first. Yeah? Okay. So what we're going to be talking about today, me and my helper, who desperately needs a name, we're going to be talking about gait belts. So gait belts are something that I've talked about on 10-Minute Q-Tip Tuesday before. They are topics that come up when I'm doing live trainings a lot. And of course, if you were to go to higherstandardscaregivertraining.com, you will see that there is a complete training on gait belts, how to use them, when it's not appropriate to use them, etc. So point of saying all that is that gait belts are actually not a one and done, here's how you put it on, you're good to go kind of training issue. There's actually a lot to know about them. And there's a lot to know about gait belts to help people to use them appropriately and sometimes to help people to use them at all. Now, to be sure, there are definitely different schools of thought about gait belts and when they are or when they're not appropriate. But I wanted to talk today about a couple of reasons why gait belts can be really beneficial. And I wanted to do that because a lot of times if I'm working with caregivers or working with clients, there can be a lot of natural resistance to wanting to use a gait belt. But there are some really good reasons why gait belts come in really, really handy. So that's what we're going to be talking about today for today's first tip. So hopefully you can see it. I've got a gait belt on my helper friend, my nameless dude here. And so I kind of just want to show you I'm going to show you and talk about the first reason why gait belts can be really helpful. So the first is, if you're going to transfer someone, if you're going to move them, you have to have your hands on them somewhere, right? You can't move someone without having your hands on their body. Whenever we're putting our hands on someone's body, especially if we have to do that forcefully, and you do have to apply force, right? If you are going to move someone's body from one location to the next, anytime that we're doing on that, we are always running the risk that we could accidentally cause an injury to that person in the way that we are putting our hands on their body, in the way that we're manipulating their body. So it's really important how to understand how to do that correctly. And if possible, we want to eliminate as much of that risk as possible. And the gait belt is one of those things that helps us to eliminate that risk. So instead of grabbing this person under their arms, right? Or grabbing them by their hands, or grabbing them around their back and having to apply force and dig in, or grabbing them by their pants and trying to pick them up like that. Pants, by the way, wow, fantastic, are not meant to be used as transfer methods because they're not meant to hold up someone's They're meant to stay up around your waist. They're not meant to hold up someone's weight. So they can rip, they can tear, they can certainly give a terrible wedgie. So we don't want to use those for transfers. But so what we have done by using the gait belt is instead of having to grab onto the person's body, now I'm going to scoot him to the side just a little bit so you can see. Now I'm not grabbing onto his body at all or applying a force directly to his body. I'm grabbing on instead to the belt. And using that belt as a really secure, bomb-proof place where I can have a good grip on this person, on this person's body, so that I can successfully move them without having to worry about accidentally causing an injury by grabbing their skin too hard, or by having by losing my grip on another part of their body. The other important benefit to this is, notice where this is on the helper here. It's right down here by his center of gravity, by his center of mass. When we're moving a load, we want to move that load from its center of mass, from its center of gravity. We don't want to move it from the outside of that center of gravity. So for example, an example I use a lot is if you're picking up a box, you don't pick up that box from the lid, from the open lid, you pick it up from the bottom of the box. The gait belt gives a nice secure way where you can move someone from their center of gravity without having to give them a wedgie or tear their pants, and have a nice firm grip on them. So those are a couple of really good reasons, a couple of good benefits for using a gait belt. Again, when that gait belt is used properly, and when it is used in the appropriate situation. If this is something you want to know more about, like I said, there is an on-demand course going over all of that information available at higherstandardscaregivertraining.com. So you can check it out there. There are courses for family caregivers. There's also special courses for professional caregivers and for employers to provide to their caregivers there. If this is something that you need to know more about. And honestly, if you transfer people, this is something you really need to understand because they can either be used to prevent harm or a gait belt can cause harm if used inappropriately. Okay, moving on to tip number 2 today for caregiving organizations. This is the first tip around a whole theme of safety and safety culture that we're going to be talking about for the next few weeks here on 10-Minute 2-Tip Tuesday. And we're going to get kind of more specific with the tips in terms of how to actually help you and your organization build a culture of safety in your organization. But today we're going to start really high level. And so today's tip is, if you want your caregivers to put safety first, then you, as a leader, as a leadership team, have to demonstrate that you also put safety first. That means that for you, you have to actually accept for yourself that in situations where there's a conflict between safety and taking on a new client, in situations where there's a conflict between productivity and safety, safety has to win. That is easier to say than it is to do sometimes, but that's what it comes down to. If we want our caregivers to make safe choices, then we have to also accept for ourselves as leaders that safety has to be the number one priority. So that's really, and I know that's a really short tip for caregiving organizations today. As I said, we're going to get more into, okay, how do we really establish a culture of safety in the coming weeks? But I wanted to give that to you to start mulling over today. How do you, thinking about this, how do you help to demonstrate to your caregivers that you're not just asking them to be safe? It's not just on them, that you as a leader and as a leadership team are also demonstrating your equal commitment to put safety first. Okay, so as I promised, there are some resources for everyone to know about. First of all, if you are a family caregiver, make sure you're checking out The Caregiver's Dilemma. It's my new podcast. And it's all about making sure to provide you with information and resources that you may very well not know about as a family caregiver that I hope will be genuinely helpful to you. So make sure you're checking out the Caregiver's Dilemma podcast. You can download it wherever podcasts are available, wherever you download your podcast. And the official home of the Caregiver's Dilemma is the Home Care Network, which is a fabulous set of resources for family caregivers. Okay, second thing, if you are sitting there thinking about this safety issue and you're the leader of a non-medical care organization, then be aware that the recordings from the fall prevention series for non-medical organizations, that's a great place to start thinking about safety, because you got to start somewhere in your organization, and those are available to you. I'm going to, through Higher Standards Caregiver Training, I'm going to go ahead and drop in a link that has that will link you to where you can access those recordings from the fall prevention series. It's really great comprehensive information. So if you're trying to think about safety, if you're thinking about fall prevention, and you're the leader of a non-medical care organization, then definitely check those out. Like I said, I will drop a link in with this post telling you how you can get access to those recordings. And finally, one more thing. If you are watching this and you work in the skilled nursing world, then I am so absolutely honored and privileged to announce that I have been invited to speak as one of the experts on the Fall Prevention Forum at Acora's Fall Prevention Forum series. And that one, so what we're going to be talking about on June 30th, what me and fellow expert are going to be talking about are what strategies we can use in skilled nursing facilities to help prevent falls in folks who have cognitive impairments. So that's going to be some super meaty, valuable content for folks in the skilled nursing world. And I think that there's information I have that I can share with you about how to be able to attend that event. So I will look for that, and if it's there, I will drop it in the post for this video as well. Okay, that's it, guys. I hope that you have a wonderful week. I will see you next week for 10-Minute Tip Tuesday. And until then, make sure you are staying healthy, stay safe, and most of all, take care, guys. Bye.